All right, let's move from the GCC over to the Southwestern Conference. And we'll start off in Lakewood, where Avon Lake traveled to Lakewood, and the scoring started quickly for the Shoremen as they began the game with a 3-minute touchdown drive that was capped off by quarterback Jack McCulloch, a 1-yard touchdown run. Avon Lake got the ball back after an interception from senior Mike Sacco. The Shoremen would score again, this time from a Matt Sanders on a 5-yard touchdown run that gave Avon Lake a 14-0 lead halfway through the first quarter. The Shoremen then, they led 21-0 before the Rangers would get on the board with a Milan Jackson, or Milan, I could be saying that wrong, but Jackson touchdown, a 22-yard touchdown. Shut up. Hey, I haven't gotten that wrong since week one.
No,
right?
you have not. Credit to you.
22-yard touchdown run with 6:02 left in the second quarter. It was 21-6 at half. In the game. The Shoremen, though, would score 27 unanswered points and would win big 48-6. Avon Lake improves to 3-2 and will travel to North Ridgeville as Lakewood falls to 0-5 and will host North Olmsted. Westlake, they came into the game still winless as they traveled to North Olmsted. Westlake, they fumbled on the opening kickoff to start the game, and the Eagles recovered it. One play later, it was standout tailback Darren Anders going in from 3 yards out to put the Eagles ahead 7-0 less than a minute into the game. Anders, though, he would have 4 rushing touchdowns before halftime. It was 42-7 at half. The lone Demon touchdown came on a flea flicker from Jacob May to Kevin Wall. North Olmsted would add 7 points in the second half, and they win big here, 49-7 over the Westlake Demons. Give credit to North Olmsted's defense, really shutting down Westlake's offense, and Westlake not able to get on track. North Olmsted, they improved to 3-2 and will travel to Lakewood. And Westlake, they fall to 0-5 and it won't get any easier as they host Avon.
No, I mean, you gotta think of it. A team like Westlake, they've had some success over the last couple of years, and unfortunately for them this year, they haven't been able to sustain that. I mean, Rob, in your world, what do you think is going on with the Westlake? Is the competition just that much better, or who have they maybe lost from last year that they haven't been able to replenish?
Well, I know they lost a key player. Terrence Rose was a key player last year. I know they lost a running back and a starting quarterback from last year. So this year is kind of, I wouldn't say rebuilding, but they have some young talent. When you look at the quarterback on their team, I think he's a junior. Yeah, and I mean they have some good talent there, but they're a young team and they make a lot of mistakes. I mean, we saw it when we saw them Berea Mid Park, but they put up 35 points in that game.
Yeah, but you saw that, I think, when we were at that game, and we can only go off of that game, but it was a 1 step forward, 2 step back type of deal. They'd have a great play, but it'd get called back on holding. So there's a lot of issues there, I think, with execution and a lot of issues with maybe mental toughness there that is just not.
Yeah,
that's kind of bleeding over.
Agree. And during that game, you could tell we're young teams, even though Berea Mid Park has a young team, but how the one play, the third down stop, and then the botched snap during that Berea Mid Park Westlake game. After that, Westlake just couldn't really get back the mojo they had in the first half. Mm-hmm. And then you could tell they were kind of losing composure.
Yeah, their confidence was a little bit down.
There were some unsportsmanlike conduct penalties in that game in the second half. So, that's how, that's what you get when you have a young team. This is for them probably a building year. Unfortunately for them, 0-5 so far. But, they still have an opportunity with the remaining schedule to maybe put some wins together and build some confidence to next year. They got a decent coaching staff that's been around for a little while, and that's not going anywhere. And they just need to continue to build on what they have.
Yeah, and they lost. Actually, the quarterback they lost last year was Trey Bylois, who we remember well.
He was a very good leader for that team.
And he put up some big numbers, too.
And at times he was able to overcome a lot of the mistakes and the confidence issues and really take that team on its back. I remember when we went to the Avon Westlake game, it seemed like Avon was establishing a lot of, we thought Avon would take that game on, and then he comes and kind of forces it and wills it to happen, whereas I'm not saying William Blood can't be that player. I just don't think he's that player currently. I think a lot of his stuff is he's a great playmaker. When he gets the ball in his hands, he can do a lot of good things with it, but the surrounding people or the surrounding mistakes kind of drag him back, and he maybe has a problem overcoming that because then it all falls on him.
Yeah.
And, whereas last year he had, Bilawas had some weapons to throw to. Not to say Westlake's doomed, but they're not playing well, and you could tell that by the posture and the attitude on that sideline a little bit is they're not playing well. They're not playing the way they should be playing or they can play, and I think that's something that's weighing on all of them that they're maybe pressing a little bit. They need to go out and just play loose and try and win. I mean, it's easier said than done, obviously, and the coaching staff knows that, but unfortunately, that's what you're dealing with when you're dealing with high school kids is sometimes it's tough to turn the page and just say, guys, just go out and play. There's that press, so.
Well, hopefully they can get up for the next one because it's not going to get any easier against an undefeated Avon team. Maybe they can pull off an upset no other.
Never know.
You never know.
That'd be one of the biggest of the year so far if that happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, let's head to Amherst, and they took on Berea Mid-Park. And I'll tell you what, this was a fun game. A lot of scoring, which didn't happen until late. And after a field goal, it was Kennedy Scagliazzo. He would run for a 74-yard touchdown run. It was 10-0 Amherst early. The run was part of a 148-yard first quarter on the ground by Scagliazzo, who couldn't be stopped. And the first quarter would end 10-0. In the second quarter was Evan Shawver. He would go 58 yards for a touchdown. The Comets would extend their lead. It was 17-0, and it looked like Berea Mid-Park was a little bit down, but they would answer right before halftime on a touchdown by Dwayne Holland. It was 17-7 at half. Wait till you hear the end of the score because right now it looks like it's a pretty good defensive game. Berea Mid-Park would answer in the second half with a 66-yard touchdown pass from Baczynski to Garrett Waite. It would cut the lead to 17-14. Amherst still led here. The Comets would score the next 20 points to blow the game wide open. It was 37-14 early into the fourth quarter. Then Berea Mid-Park running back Bryce Agnew, he would score to cut the lead to 37-21. Then Scagliazzo would answer with a score of his own, making it 44-21. And it looked like Amherst was going to put it away, but a couple of onside kicks by Berea Mid-Park would get them right back into this game as they recovered. And at one point, Berea Mid-Park climbed back to a 44-41 game and right in striking distance. But Amherst, again, would push them away and would score one more time to ice the game with 9 seconds left as they would score on a kick return. There was 47 points scored in the fourth quarter alone in this game. And Amherst gets a huge win, 51-41 over Berea Mid-Park. Amherst improves to 4-1 on the season and will host Olmsted Falls this Friday, while Berea Mid-Park falls to 3-2, and they will host Midview. And either one of those games, I think, is really going to be a great game. Stat-wise for Amherst, running back Kennedy Scagliazzo ran for 296 yards on 35 carries and 4 touchdowns. It was Evan Shawver. He also ran for Amherst and had 10 carries for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. For Berea Mid-Park, it was Bryce Agnew. He finished with 77 yards, 2 touchdowns on 16 carries. And then Trevor Baczynski again putting up impressive numbers, 364 yards passing. He had 4 touchdowns and finally threw his first interception of the year. So, if we had those overall stats, I'm sure his touchdown ratio to interception is pretty impressive there.
See, a game like this, we mentioned the Brunswick Menor game, 62-0. That's a tough game to obviously go through. But after the fact, a game like that is more easily discarded than a game like this. Now, if you're Berea Mid-Park's point of view, you're looking at the film on Saturday. There are so many things that you're looking at that you could have probably done better to make your team win that game. You fought back so close, but you just didn't do enough to gain that advantage. So a game like this, as far as film-wise go, would be much tougher and for a team to get over. But we know John Hunick well. We know he's going to be amped up, ready to play for their next game.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about looking at the film on Saturdays, and that's what it is. It's there. It's guys, here's what happened, and here's how we control it in X, Y, and Z. I really think that they don't have, just like Brunswick doesn't have time because they got a tough team coming. They got Midview. They're in the meat of their schedule. Yeah, they had a setback against Amherst Steel. They're by no means technically out of it at this point in time. A win over Midview, you still have an opportunity to beat a team like Avon. You still have an opportunity to beat, Olmsted Falls and things like that going forward. I think you can, this is not a loss to Amherst does not end the season for Berea Mid-Park. However, they need to understand that they don't have their margin for error is slim right now. Another loss or a loss to Midview is going to probably put them out of any opportunity for a playoff. They have a slim opportunity now in their region, which is a tough region to begin with.
Division I, Region 1.
Yeah,
the margin for error is very small there.
And you could make an argument that I know it's week 6, but this is when the teams separate themselves, who's going to be in the playoffs and who's not. And right now, Berea Mid-Park is on the outside looking in. So I think if I'm John Hunick, I'm saying, guys, we got to focus on beating Midview. We can't worry about what we did wrong against Amherst because guess what? That doesn't help us. We need to fix what we did wrong. We need to address it and make sure it doesn't happen again. And I believe that John Hunick knows how to correct mistakes so they don't happen again. The problem is he can only coach. He can't play. And a lot of these kids are still young. Bazinski is still a junior. A lot of that offensive line, Agnew's a junior. So these guys are starting to understand what it's big-time high school football is about. And I think we're seeing them kind of turn the tide. It's going to be interesting to see how this Midview game comes for them because Midview's not a powder puff team. They are a team that will hit you in the mouth early, and if you let them get on a roll, it could get as bad as that Brunswick Menor game. It could get as bad as having 20 points dropped on you in the second half without even understanding what's happening. And I guarantee that's what happened. They came out in the second half and got punched in the mouth, and next thing you know, they're down 20 points. Now, kudos to them for having the ability to come back, but unfortunately, you didn't come all the way back. You made it. You made it a very close game, but it was interesting. And I think John Hunick and the coaching staff at Berea Mid-Park knows that, and they can kind of build off of that. Hey guys, we were down 20 in the third quarter, and we almost came back. We scared them. We got within a touchdown here, and a couple things go our way, we win that game. So that's the kind of opportunity you want to keep preaching to your kids.
Yeah, we have a few other games that probably could be easily talked about as well as North Ridgeville came into this game winless against Olmsted Falls. It was North Ridgeville quarterback Matt Steinmetz on the fourth play of the game, launching a 79-yard scoring strike to senior wideout Cannon Kerr, and got Ridgeville on the board early. Now, a notable note here, Shamari Williams did play in this game for North Ridgeville, and it was notable. You could obviously see North Ridgeville's offense looked to be hitting on all cylinders in this game. Olmsted Falls, they would answer with a Michael Howard touchdown run on a kickoff of 70 yards. That tied the game. Then running back Jack Spelsey, he would run it in from 3 yards to tie the game. Oh, actually, the 70 yards didn't score a touchdown. It was Jack Spelsey that capped it off from 3 yards out to tie the game. Then Spelsey and senior Luke Lombardo, they rushed for a combined 143 yards and scored all 5 Bulldog touchdowns in this game. Game went back and forth pretty much throughout the whole game. And North Ridgeville quarterback Matt Steinmetz, he threw 2 interceptions, one that went for a touchdown, but it still took Olmsted Falls defense to stop Shamari Williams 4 times with under 2 minutes left in the game. Olmsted Falls escapes this game with a 42-35 win, holding off the winless North Ridgeville Rangers. Olmsted Falls improves to 4-1 and will travel to Amherst. And then the battle of 2 4-1 teams as Avon Lake will. Oh, and actually North Ridgeville stays winless, dropping to 0-5. They will host Avon Lake, and then it was Olmsted Falls at 4-1. They have one win along with Amherst. I couldn't read my writing, my typing confused me a little bit. That's going to be a really good game. Olmsted Falls and Amherst. Shamari Williams, he finished with 185 yards on 35 carries and 2 touchdowns. And finally back into the lineup there, and it was obvious, scoring 35 points. This North Ridgeville team, 0-5, coming in against a very good Olmsted Falls team with only 1 loss, and it's not like they rolled over. They played pretty well in this game.
Not at all. And you know what? One of the things that you kind of have to keep in mind with North Ridgeville, and I've been able to kind of converse a little bit with Luke Durbin, the coach there, and get an idea of what's going on there. He's having a real tough time, and they're plagued by injuries right now. They're having to bring kids up from JV and freshmen, and they've even had to cancel some freshman JV games because they don't have enough kids to play. You know what I mean? It's just they're bit by the injury bug, so it's tough to know what you got going into a Friday night game. If you're playing, a sophomore freshman, that you want them to step up and seize the limelight. But when they're going up against juniors and seniors on the other side of the ball, it's tough to know. Obviously, with Shamari Williams back, that's got to be a huge boost to confidence of that team because he can, kind of be the anchor of that particular ship. But, unfortunately, when you play a team like Olmsted Falls, again, we talk about margins of error. There's not a lot there. You know what I mean? And they scored 35. They kept it a game, and that's what you can ask for. But, unfortunately, it's just a tough season in North Ridgeville right now. You want to get them a couple wins to make the kids feel good, especially for the seniors and things like that. You don't want to go out.
Absolutely.
So, look for them to throw everything they can at the next opponent. And you got to love that those kids are playing tough. So, obviously, you're right. Next week's setting up some really good games, and you got some really good opportunities for teams to better themselves or better their playoff resume.
Yeah, and the next game, the battle of the unbeatens here was Midview traveling to Avon, and this was a really good game. Avon, though, they're just really tough in this game. Avon would score first with a Nick Pirasek 13-yard run. The kick was good after it was 7-0. Then Midview would answer. Zach Gill, 11-yard pass from Seamus Higley. The kick was good to tie it at 7. It was actually 14-7 at half, but Avon would score the next 21 points. Quarterback Mart Steinmetz, 9-yard run on a touchdown. Then running back Nick Pirasek, a 74-yard run, and quarterback Ryan Malloy, a 24-yard run to score those next 21 points. It was 28-7 before Midview would strike with a Nick Crum pass from Higley. Midview cut the lead 28-14, and they didn't give up in this game, but Avon would respond with 2 more scores and win this big rivalry, 42-21. It was Avon as they improved to 5-0 now and will travel to Westlake, who hasn't won a game yet this season. And Midview falls to 4-1, and they'll have a pretty big matchup as they travel to Berea Mid-Park. For Avon, his quarterback Ryan Malloy, he threw for 183 yards and a touchdown. He also ran for 117 and another score. Nick Pirasek, 9 receptions, 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. For Midview was quarterback Seamus Higley. He passed for 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, while running back Connor Wolf ran for 123 yards. And this season is far from over for both teams. But looking at the playoffs and things of that nature, Midview is still right there. And we'll quickly just look at Joe Itel's rankings for some of these. Avon's obviously number 1. Midview now falls to number 4. Amherst is number 6. And then you have North Olmsted is actually tied with North Royalton for number 7. And Olmsted falls number 11 right there. So Avon Lake at number 18. So really all these teams right there for the playoff run. The top 8 teams make it. So Midview drops to number 4, but this season is far from over, and they're Avon and Midview 1-2 again in the Southwestern Conference right now. We'll see if that changes in the coming weeks.
Well, it's just building towards their matchup, and I think unless a Berea Mid-Park or Westlake can shock the world, here or again, like I said, Olmsted Falls, Avon Lake, those teams are still out there. But right now it seems like a 2-man race for first in that division and really first in the region.
Yeah, well, we'll find out what happens later on. When we come back, we're going to talk Suburban League football and also recap our game of the week, which was the Buckeye Bucks and the Columbia Raiders, and talk about what's coming up here on Sports on Tap. We're Sports on Tap with NEO Sports Insiders Network. We'll be right back.